All right, everyone. So we are here with Greta. Greta, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your second name in case I absolutely butcher it. So what I'll do is I'll let you take it away, say your name, give a little bit of an introduction about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. So my name is Greta, and my surname is Streimikyte. It's it is a difficulty for most people to pronounce it. That's okay. I'll take that off your shoulders. From athletics perspective, I'm a Paralympian, 1500-meter runner, a teacher team category. That's the category with athletes with the but the best words but the best worst vision, like I would like to say.
Yeah.
And I work part time in AAB, and I'm also studying, doing my part time master's in sports psychology.
Deadly. That is absolutely perfect. We've loads to go off on from there. So thank you very much. What we're gonna just start off with and jump into is kind of your sporting background. Obviously, we know you for being a Paralympian and a middle distance runner. But kind of before you got into your running, was there any other sports you kind of grew up doing, or has running always been in your life?
To be honest, no, running really kind of became a part of my life when I was like 17. So I always say that I was a very late comer into the sport. But beforehand, like I always been very active in the PE classes. I loved what was growing up in Lithuania. I loved all the PE classes. I tried to do like be as active as I can after schools and all the sporting activities that we had. Running was never my thing, even though as a family we were always very kind of sport driven. And I suppose, as I always like to joke around, saying since I'm a top part of the triplets, I feel like we always have that competitive spirit
Yeah,
against
yeah.
each other. So I feel like running, then I found it, got a chance to translate my competitiveness into running, into competing against other people, into competing against myself, and seeing what I can do. So I feel like it all tied up very nicely at the end.
Definitely, and being like 17 years old, and especially nowadays for girls, that's kind of the age where girls start, and boys, but specifically in girls that we see, 17 is kind of the age where girls start dropping out of sports and start going off and socialising and going to partying and things like that. So, what was it for you at the age of 17 that actually got you into running?
That is a very good. I feel like you highlighted that very good, and yet there is. We definitely can see the girls dropping out, and I feel like I hope that we're talking about it more and more. So maybe it's gonna be like maybe less and less it's gonna happen, and that you can stay in the sport, and maybe you don't need to be that intense, but as long as you can stay in the sport, that's what matters the most. But for me, I guess you see, so I was in a bit different boat, and I feel like running in the way was running was kind of like, I guess for me, an opportunity to adapt to Irish culture. I'm not gonna lie, because I came to Ireland when I was 15, and only I started running like 2 years later. Like I kind of like joined Clonard Harriers, which I kind of, and I feel like running, that's a sport. Running, like you surround yourself with people straight away that have the same goal, to be better, to enjoy being active, enjoy running, have the same passion. So for me, it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like for me that was an opportunity to kind of like, you know, meet new people, be like I said, be a part of the new culture, learn, meet new people. So I feel like that's why for me, that's what I needed. And everything lined up so nicely that, that's what helped me, I guess, to make new friends and yeah, and just learn more about the Irish culture.
So maybe in a sense, athletics was a way to kind of break the ice to become kind of yeah, like you've mentioned, kind of get into the Irish culture. So it wasn't the case of kind of throwing yourself into a new skill and things like that. Maybe athletics was a way to kind of break the ice to start speaking and making friends with more people and Irish people. So kind of it was more of a smooth process in that sense, instead of kind of like what would happen with most people, kind of just getting thrown into a new school and forced to make friends that way.
Well, I guess for me, like, yeah, like, well, it was kind of a few years later, obviously, when I kind of like started athletics and when I joined the club. I guess I was like very lucky to, be in a school with my brother and sister. So we're kind of like, and there was another few Lithuanian friends. So I'm kind of like, had a little circle. But that's it is. It kind of forced you to get out of that. It's like, okay, Greta, like this is where you need to adjust. Jesus, you came to Ireland, so like, Irishman. And like, so I feel like definitely that definitely brought a lot into my life. I'm not gonna lie, and I feel like sport in general has that I don't like maybe mad like this little aspect in it, this little element that I always say it's so global. And like it doesn't matter the background, it doesn't matter from what country you are, it doesn't matter what language you speak, like all these things doesn't matter. Like you meet the person and like even you go into training camps and there's people that you don't meet, but then like you just say hi with as little language as you have,
Yeah.
and here you are 20 minutes later still jogging together. So it's like, it just the sport, I feel like it just non-spoken passion for it just makes like connects people. I always believed it, and I think it's true, and it really it was a very good example in my situation.
Definitely, and what better club to kind of kick things off than with Clonliffe Harriers? Myself, I'm also a Clonliffe Harriers athlete, so kind of want to get your kind of obviously we'll have maybe a little bit of bias here, kind of both being Clonliffe Harriers athletes,
I
but
know.
kind of your experience with the club. Obviously, coming at 17 years of age, only being in Ireland for 2 years at the time. What was your experience once you joined Clonliffe?
Oh, I loved it. So I remember I came the first time and Joe Cooper, he was my first coach. And I come in, I was like, I said, he was like, hi. I was like, I remember till this day, I'm coming on Tuesday nights of knowing nobody. I like at the Central Track, see Joe, like somebody leads up to, it's like, oh, you need to go and talk to Joe, come to Joe. And I was like, I would like to join the club. And he's like, yeah, girls are leaving now. I was like, well, this is going to be great. Like the girls were great, everybody were great. But I remember, yeah, it was Tuesday, and I feel we were just back, so I think like we're doing the first runs together. It was like 40-minute run or something, and I remember like, oh geez, like it was hard, and I was like, well, all I was just like even though it was like easier on, but I wasn't fit, and then it's like. And then the girls were like, yeah, well, didn't you see me? I did all the running. Like, yeah. So I feel like, yeah, so it was a good, like I always thought like Joe was a very good step, like as a coach, it was very good stepping stone for me. He like, to come and start from somewhere, because you always need to start from somewhere.
Yep.
And I think that he was perfect coach for that.
Definitely no. Anyone that's ever anyone kind of in the running world, even within Ireland, will know Joe, and especially everyone from Clonliffe. Kind of he'll go down as a club legend. So no one better to get your running career kicked off with than with Joe. So you really couldn't have asked for a much better way to get into the sport and get into running. So no, that Joe and the club as a whole, I assume, kind of made that whole experience a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think look that is like that's where my sport, like that's where my getting to know people and getting to running, like that's where it all started. Like Jesus, like I remember like with the girls that I would train, I would be like so at the back and like pushing. I was like, oh my God, it's like I remember it's like during those sessions, and I was like, God, I used to have such a long way to go. So I was like, of course, like I say, you have to start somewhere, have to start learning about the sport, somewhere, and I guess Fun of Harriers was the club.
Exactly, and kind of it's, I suppose, looking back now at going to two Olympics, becoming European champion back in 2018, which we'll get into. But looking back now, is there kind of any moment where you saw a shift in your training, or you took it, you took the sport by the grip in the neck and kind of forced that shift in your training and win the results you saw, or the results you wanted, and kind of really full on went into the sport, or did it kind of just come a little bit naturally, and your talent began to show?
You see, I never count myself as a talented athlete because I don't think that I am. My coach is funny. I think that they will agree. I'm not the most talented coach, but I am believer in hard work. I always been, and I believe that if you put in the work, if you're you obviously you need to have, that like physical, you need to have in sport, like you can't get away with a bit of like, physical capabilities
Yeah,
of running and all this kind of
yeah.
stuff. But I always joke around and say that Lithuanians are not the runners. Definitely not. Like we're more of like high jumpers or basketball. So here I am launching myself into running. But I always, so yeah, so I feel like I just believe like that if I put in the work, like bit by bit I would get better. And like it's always been my belief in athletics or in whatever I do. So I just kind of put in the work. I was with Conor Carriers for a few years when I started, and then after that, I started studying in DCU, and that's where I kind of joined DCU team. And I feel like that's, like I always say, like you're learning, you're progressing bit by bit. So I guess my progression was, joining DCU team and then training with them more. And I guess then you're kind of like bit by bit, you're kind of like, you're running, and then you can see a bit of results, and then you just go step by step and just see, how things evolve. I feel like that's how it was for me. It was like you always get those kind of like we all, when we start running, we have those kind of like big PBs because we have, such a big gap such a big gap that you need to like reach, but then I guess then, you're kind of like bit by bit, the PB stopped and
You kind of
and
plateau a bit then.
yeah, and this is over.
Yeah.
And you still like start and you still continue training, and you're still hoping for those PBs, even if they're smaller ones. So I guess for me it was really natural. It was for me, from Clonlip to DCU, new people again, new athletes in perspective. Then you learn even more. So I guess yeah, I feel like it was very like, gradual, and then you're kind of like build the circle people circle of people around you, which teaches you even more. And then like, oh, what opportunities, where could you race,
Yeah.
and what athlete could you become. So I feel like that was for me kind of very gradual, and still is.
Definitely, and yeah, like as you mentioned, you only started running when you were 17. So in terms of how long people run for, there's definitely still, would you say, time there for you even to improve your running even further.
Oh yeah, like I hope, like yes, I hope so. Like like I can run marathons on 45 miles. Well, no, marathons probably not for me, but sure. Like I do, I think so. Like I still like I and maybe like maybe I'm not gonna be like, you see, to be honest, like like some people, like there is certain times that maybe I would like to run, but to be honest, in my head, it's more like when I retire, I always kind of think that I would like to, like my goal is to know that I did everything what I could to be the best as I can be, and to have no regrets towards my sport
Yeah.
and what I did. So I guess that has always been my kind of focus, and whatever that's gonna bring me, by the time when I decide to retire, like that, that's it. So I think like always kind of look from that perspective.
Definitely. So then, hopefully, some more gold medals then to bring home to Ireland between now and the time you retire.
Yeah, hopefully too.
And no, and you kind of touched on this at the start. Obviously, I've spoken to Olympians before on the podcast, but Paralympian is the kind of person that I haven't spoken to before.
Mm.
And when like I'm kind of like I'm big into running. So like for like the Olympics, I stayed up and watched every single race, and then for the Paralympics, I stay up and watch all the races. But the one thing that I'm not too, you know informed about, I suppose, is kind of the different categories. So you mentioned your
Oh yeah.
T13, which you put into terms as you're the best of. You kind of have the disability at the worst case, I suppose. But then,
Yeah.
kind of looking at your races as well, there's also some athletes running with guides.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't have a guide. So kind of how do the different categories work, and how does your one work specifically? How do you, I suppose, qualify for your category?
Oh, that's a very good question. I like it. So I feel like with the Paralympic sport, it is very complicated. It's still so many, like I don't know all categories. So like I don't know many categories myself because like it's it's different, just different to each. It can be a bit different to each event. And I suppose, like, with para sport, it's kind of a beauty and a curse, as I say, because everybody's different, and it's cool that you kind of have the inclusion, but from different perspective, it's very hard to classify everybody evenly because everybody is so unique.
Yeah.
I guess but obviously when we come to visual impairment, it's a bit more straightforward. So there's three classes in athletics. So there's when you're completely blind, so that is T11, where you where the athlete can't see anything. So he has a guide, so it means that he has to train with the guide, run with the guide, and that's everything is said by that.
Yeah.
Then there's T12. So T12 is an athlete that has, let's say, a bit more vision, and technically he can choose between running with the guide and running without the guide in a certain situations. Um, which, I have my own opinion on that matter. As a Paralympian, I do have my own. But yeah, so the athlete has, he can run without the guide, he can run without the guide. With the guide, majority would run. No, I couldn't say majority. Actually, it's up to the athlete and
Yeah.
the way the athlete sees, because for some athletes, so during the day, if they're sunny, it's harder for them to see, the color, the
Yeah.
track, the lines differences, as for some, or in evening time, they would be absolutely fine, or either way around. And then it's T13, which is my category, where I was like, I have the best worst vision, and that, and that means that I'm not allowed to have a guide. I run without a guide. I train without a guide. I can compete in able-bodied races, which I do. Like, that's why I'm kind of like, I find myself sometimes as a hybrid athlete, because when, like, I'm competing against able-bodied, I don't count myself as Paralympian.
Yeah.
I'm not Paralympian, and then when I compete in the Paralympic events, I am a Paralympian. So basically, so yeah, so that's the differences.
And that's actually something that I wanted to touch on, was because when I'm looking at obviously your races on the Olympic stage and European stage, you are in your categories in terms of T13, and I suppose in that sense you are a Paralympian. But then when you come to national races, it's you're racing against fully able-bodied athletes. So kind of, do you feel, I don't know, do you feel kind of more accomplished, I suppose, running against these fully able-bodied athletes, and then kind of does that give you then a little bit more confidence when you're going into races, just say like the Europeans or the Paralympics, or do you just kind of see yourself then as just as a fully hybrid athlete where you kind of just race whatever races in front of you?
Oh yeah, no, like, to be honest, I never, like, when I stand at the start line, I'm like, I'm not saying, oh, like, Greta Streimikyte, I'm a Paralympian. Like, I don't really do that. I was like, I'm just like, I'm Greta, like, as any other athlete on that start line and running my best race. Like, that's who I am. That's all. But, well, to be honest, I am like that when it comes to Paralympics as well. I'm just like Greta standing on the start line and, running the race. So I don't really, I don't know, I don't really distinguish. I love being able to run with able bodies, and I'm very grateful that I can, because, not every athlete can. If you have a guide, it makes it slightly difficult for you
Yeah.
to be in an able-bodied race, and you might not be allowed to do that, as I am. And I just find it, like, I just being like lucky, because I can compete, I can strive for improving even more, like, and then I can, like, see where the other athletes at, and and just try to beat them and all that kind of stuff. So, like, I count myself very lucky, because for me, there will never be the end of improvement. Like, I always say, oh, well, like, improve as an athlete, but, like, I always say, like, even though if I'm gonna be like, we have some actually, like, incredible, like, T13 athletes now that run some amazing times, and even the world record still, like, I don't know when it's gonna be broken, because the world record is like 404. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, Jesus. Which, could have been like, this is easy at some point in the Olympics, would have been a pretty nice time.
Yeah.
And even now, like, these days, but that's what I mean. So it's kind of, it's nice. I like to be like, put myself in that situation, and I can put myself in that situation. And you always need to compete against better than you are. That's how you
Definitely.
develop and become better athletes.
No, 100%. And I know this is something that Jason Smith has touched on before. Like, obviously, Jason Smith is the best, Paralympian sprinter ever. And obviously, it's great. He's an Irish athlete as well. But
Yeah.
he's so good that he's kind of talking about, like, him getting the opportunity to run in the Olympics instead of the
Yeah.
Paralympics. And I don't know if this, translates to you directly, but, you're training with Phelan's group, with Nadia Power, and you're racing here in Ireland with the best in the country, getting to national finals. So would that ever be a possibility for you, whether on the world stage, Olympic stage, or even on the European stage?
Sorry, the question
In,
is.
in terms of in terms of you, racing on the European stage or on the Olympic stage with able-bodied athletes instead of as a Paralympian, I suppose.
Oh, well, you see, I don't know. You see, like, I don't know if I ever be good enough for that. If I'm very honest, like, I love Jason, and like, he's great, for a great buddy. Jesus, I love him on the camp and everything, and he is a great example to have. And like that, he was such a talent. He was one of the best sprinters in Ireland. Like, he's third now, I think, in his time. He got beaten by, with the record, with the time that he had. Um, but like, it's great to have him as an example, and to kind of like something to strive for. Like, you see, the way I always look at it, just to go step by step and run as fast as you can, and year by year, and like where it will, and we'll see what it will bring me. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to ever bridge that gap, because it just like, because I don't feel like well, I have to be honest, like, I haven't been in sport long enough. And another thing is that and just we can see how quickly every year the times like do go quicker and quicker and quicker.
True.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, but I'm not really worried about that, to be honest. I'm just training away, enjoying the training. I'm racing as a Paralympian, which I am, and then I'm just running with able bodies as well. So, and then I'll see what it's gonna bring me.
Definitely no. That's definitely a deadly attitude and the deadly mindset to have, looking towards it, in a sense, where, like, just keep plucking away at the training, and kind of whatever happens happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of, so now, like, as we've mentioned so far, you're a Paralympian, you're a European gold medalist. But what I want to do is kind of bring us back to that first Irish Fest, and that first time you got to put that Irish Vest on. Obviously, coming from Lithuania, and then putting that Irish Vest on for the first time. What was that like?
I was like, yeah, like, I remember being like, it was like, I was so grateful, because, like, I don't know, just to be there, like, it just, the amount of support, like people surround me in general, Irish people, like, it was just so much, like, and it still continues, but for the first time, is that like so much support. Like, I felt really proud, and I feel like for me, like, it was kind of like, to kind of make there for me, was kind of in a way to say, like, to, because it is like, you trained, you got there, for me to kind of to do my best to perform, to leave everything at the track. Like, for me, it was kind of in the way to say, kind of like, thank you to people who were like supporting me,
Yeah.
who got like that I got there, because it's always like, it's your job to do, to do the training and to get there, but we can't forget the people that are around you. And for me, I was just so grateful, and like, to Ireland as well, that they're kind of like, like, oh, Greta represent Ireland. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because for me, it's like, I'm kind of like very straightforward person. I was like, well, who I am to represent, like, why would I represent Ireland,
Yeah.
And obviously we see people like doing it across the world, and athletes, um, doing it. But for me, it was personal, and I was like, I felt gratitude, and I was grateful to people, and I was very proud to wear that vest, and I was like, "Greta, you better run it faster than that."
But no, I think it was lovely in the way you kind of put it there. It was like it was nearly like a thank you the first time you put the Irish vest on, in the sense there. I was like thanking the Irish people in general, and Irish people in the sports of athletics, for kind of taking you in, and kind of treating you as one of their own.
Yeah, no, no, exactly. And like it is like treating you like your own, and and that, you're like, yeah, we want you to represent Ireland. Do you know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
like, you're like, as maybe cruel or whatever that sounds like, you're good at that. But, you're good because like I want you to represent, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's
yeah.
for me. And because like I came to Ireland, it's not like I was born. I came when I was 15. I started running bit by bit, like I still like, it was like, I don't know, one time, first time represented that when I was 21. So like I still like now, when I think about it, like I was still so new into sport, and for me still like everything was so new. So like that's why like for me it was a big thing.
And that first race, or that first experience, how did getting your first Irish Fest come about?
Um, do you mean in Rio?
Or was Rio your first Irish Fest?
Oh no, European champion was
Oh,
my first.
oh, and was that in 2016?
Yeah, that was 2016. That was a warm up before Rio. Yeah, it was in the European Champions in Greta.
Oh, and that's where you picked up the bronze medal.
Yeah.
So your first Irish Fest, and you pick up a bronze medal. That must have been a surreal experience.
I feel like that year was just really like, it was one of those like good athletics years when you kind of
Yeah.
run well. So for me, because we all have, those kind of up and then like one year you're flying, other year like Jesus, you're like, like it's not as well as you wanted to go.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, that year was like, I feel like it was like I was like, like, yeah, it was like it was, yeah, I was happy, but you see, like, not to be ungrateful or anything, but then like it was a bigger picture. Rio was always a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like Rio was like making like every 4 years. Like this was always my goal. Like, Rio. So like I was so proud at Europeans, but like Rio was like, that was a different ball game.
Do you feel like maybe if Rio and was in a different year compared to your first Europeans, where you picked up the bronze, maybe that bronze medal might have sat a little bit nicer, compared then when you got the bronze medal in the same year as the Rio Olympics. It maybe you didn't have the time to kind of let it set in as much. You had to reshift your focus then onto Rio, which, like you said, is kind of the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Like for me, it was kind of like I went to European Championships. Okay, like Greta, this is your time to learn how the major championships work, because I had to prepare myself for Rio.
Yeah.
Like that was so for me. I took it as like, well, obviously I do like I do value what I did at European Championships and all that kind of stuff. But I for me it was kind of like, okay, Greta, like you're kind of okay. You need to just see how it all works, because when you're going to be in Rio, that's going to be even more nerves,
Yeah.
more pressure. Like so, like I treated like European Championships as a warm up towards the, like, as bad as it fucking sounds, but back then, but you need to look like at the major championships, not only like as a major championship, but again as something that you can take out of it. The experience. Like I never experienced like call rooms, major
Yeah.
championships, like going through like different stages, like tapering before, when you're at the in the place at the major championship in the country, all those little things, like that's what counts for your performance. So if you replicate that, and if that works well, you shouldn't test that at the major championship. But like it is like you're constantly learning. So then, and then like, okay, and then you're like, okay, so now you're in Rio. That is completely different. Like, the heat, the atmosphere, like that is a new level. So like whatever I brought from European Championships, in a way helped me in Rio. So I look at it that way.
Definitely. And obviously, the European Championships can only do so much for you. Once you get to Rio and get to the Olympics, I suppose it's a completely different ball game whatsoever. I suppose, you know, when, especially for your first Olympics, what was that? Kind of just walk us through that entire experience, because I'm sure the European Championships can only help you so much before the Olympics becomes its own big thing, and it's like, hold on a second, this is crazy.
Yeah, like it was like it is like it's different in terms of like I will never forget the atmosphere, because that was like London, like World Championships atmosphere was amazing as well. But I remember, like, Jesus, when I entered that final in Rio, like the atmosphere, the amount of people were there, like, and you can feel it,
Yeah.
like you can feel like those people there. I always joke, like, you know, we're athletes for like we're like a gladiators, you know, we're like they're like fighting for that spot, you know. But like for me, like I just kind of like, you know, I will never forget like standing when you get out of like the call room, and you're just, I remember looking up, and then it's like the old can see just like all those people, and you can hear like it was something like that. Yeah, I will never. I kind of always was like, Jesus, like how, and then you're like, how can you, you know, like how was that it, you know,
Yeah.
like how was that experience, and then you know, yeah, and then like just kind of like I don't know, just being there, and then you're like, okay, people don't matter, like you just have to. And then another thing is like always like, you know, you kind of like, and then when think about that, all those people are there to kind of watch your race
What's
now.
you? Yeah.
Like, oh my god, which was like for me, it was as a new athlete, you know, for me it's like Jesus, but obviously you just need to concentrate and then actually run and you know and do your best as best as you can. And yeah, like that was for me, it was like, oh, it was like I remember after crossing the finish line I was absolutely like shaking, I was like barely walking, like I remember going through the media, and media girl was like to us like, Greta, like, are you okay, were you able to talk? Because I remember myself, I was like, oh my god, because like you're kind of okay, but then when you cross that finish line, everything like what you felt, all the like race tiredness, like whatever, just hits
Hits
you
you.
at
Yeah.
once. And I was like, yeah, it was just some. I remember it's like, and then even after that race, I remember then we were like, was RT interviews, and then like even media side girl was like to me, Greta, are you recovered? Are you okay to do this? Because I was like, was I'm that bad? And she's like, oh my god, you're like, and you were like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, okay, I'm all good. So that was my real experience. But no, to be honest, it was amazing. And then Tokyo has had its own, you know, bits that you learn from and its own experience as well.
Exactly, and that's kind of exactly what I want to touch on now. Was like, obviously Tokyo, for it doesn't matter if Tokyo is your first or second or third Olympics. That is as an event is going to be, you know, completely different than anything you'll probably ever do throughout your career, no matter, you know, who you are, because just obviously under the circumstances that Tokyo was under in terms of COVID-19. So comparing Tokyo to Rio, I know you mentioned there about the atmosphere in Rio was something that really stood out to you, but not having that in Tokyo, did it nearly make it a completely different experience?
To be honest, really, because like I'm a different athlete now when I was in Rio. Like I was so new, so there was obviously different experiences. And then like I did now a couple of major championships, so now you kind of like I couldn't say that your mind shifts, but then you're like you recognize different experience, and you recognize different aspects of the race anymore. So like I would like if there would have been like I would like, and we all that want that atmosphere. We always want that people, because like as an athlete we love it. It brings it on, like, you know, it gets that a bit of that fire, you know, in us, because
Yeah.
like it's like we're there to kind of, and people are there to watch, so we absolutely love it. But then in Tokyo, I guess because we're kind of like we knew that there's not going to be any people. Like it was just so clear. So, and because then we had some races beforehand, and people did races where there's like nobody, like I don't know if you probably watch, those first COVID races where
Yeah.
like it's like a time trial, basically nobody's there, like as little people as possible. So like so like or nationals as well, where like you come in, you race, and you're out. So like because so we're kind of did that, so I knew that like that's gonna be the case, and like I never. So I never kind of like, oh, like it was pity that people weren't there, but we knew where we're
Yeah,
going, and we knew that like, okay, this is like we're not gonna get to enjoy the atmosphere. We're just going there for the
for the
business,
race.
when we get the business
And then
done,
home.
Yeah. So so yeah, that was it. But then I been like I completely different athlete. It was 5 years since Rio, and then Tokyo, like 5 years. That is a lot of time to develop as an athlete, and I went with different kind of minds. Well, not the same mindset, but a different kind of athlete, different more had a bit more
Yeah.
experience, had a bit more confidence, like things to do, and then I guess we, as a field of athletes, we improved. We all improved. Like the para sports improving so quickly, like jumping times and everything. So, which is amazing to see, and I absolutely love it. So, and the races get more interesting and more competitive, and you're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? But that's what we like, because
Yeah.
sport is show for people to watch. So it was kind of from that aspect I really enjoyed. From racing aspect, and being as a bit more experienced athlete, I really enjoyed Tokyo as well.
And then kind of your preparation for Tokyo, because I know athletes coming up to a big race like the Olympics, they want to peak for that time, and then they want to taper leading up to the race. So how did that postponement of a year of the Olympics kind of affect your training, or did you put that did you put that fitness that you had into some other races or time trials that you gained for the Olympics that were meant to happen in 2020?
Yeah, we're like, I think we're just like, okay, we're just gonna like, yeah, they're not gonna happen. I remember being at the training session, and I think we did like I did K's or something. And then I think I was like, Taylor was like, yeah, glad the games are not happening. I was like, yes, I kind of got that. The
Yeah,
games are not happening.
you kind of
But I was
guessed it.
like, I was like, it's good. I was like, it's fine. It's like, it's what make you, it's like your choice what you want to make out of it. So I was like, okay, this is like because it was just the time, year when it was the first year when I joined Dublin Track Club. So for me, it was a blessing in disguise. Like, I loved that year because for me, it was an opportunity to learn, to adapt to new training,
Yep.
to do a bit more miles, to kind of, join the gang and like all, do the training.
Yeah.
And it's like, so for me, like, I don't know, people were like, oh my God, this is so disappointing. Like, yeah, it sucks. We all in the same boat. But like, for me personally, like, this is great. So I took it as an opportunity to, just to experiment, to do, to learn how to, to do new sessions, more volume and all these kind of bits and bobs. So for me, it worked out well.
Definitely, and kind of the athlete that went into the Tokyo Olympics in the year of 2021 compared to the athlete that was going to go into the Tokyo Olympics in 2020, were they two completely different athletes? Do you feel that year postponement worked in your favor in terms of you developed as an athlete overall, and kind of went into the Olympics a little bit fitter, a little bit stronger than you would have if the Olympics happened in 2020?
I think so. I feel like in a way, yeah, I was more confident because I feel like, yeah, I had, a bit more, yeah, we're gonna get back to miles, a bit more miles in me, ran a bit more miles, and, I knew that my body was able to handle it, so kind of like, I felt a bit stronger, and then I suppose that gave me, I guess, for me to kind of, to as a coach, like Phelan was I just started working with Phelan, so that gave me time to kind of like, build a relationship with, with new coach, which is, all these things are important. So like that like, so I feel like, yeah, I feel that I can strongly say that like, the year, like extra year benefit me definitely in a positive way.
Definitely, and I know, like, I seen you had a post on Instagram as well that maybe the experiences in terms of the race didn't go as well as you wanted or planned, but I suppose there was a lot more in hindsight that you took from the entire experience, just not just the race result.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wasn't particularly happy with my performance in Tokyo. I wasn't at all. I was like, but yeah, I definitely learned. I learned like to never ever run sprint the last 200 meters and remember that you have something you have at the end. So I definitely learned that lesson really well.
Definitely.
But no, I definitely did took like, especially from the like racing. I feel like racing tactics we did had to think about. I was like, okay, which one the best? And like 90% of what we planned to do, the plan was set for the championships, worked out well. I just had to like be a bit more patient, and I wasn't. I was like, I feel like during the race, like last lap, I just got so excited. I was like, in my head, I still remember that being like, oh my god, Greta, you've never been third. Like, you're just time to go. Like, which in my head I should have been, Greta, you need to wait another 100 meters then go. So I think, but like again, that's kind of like me, learning to be more patient, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, and play the game a bit smarter. Um, but I guess like every major championships teaches you something. If you take away, like I always say, like if you like reflect on it and then do something about it, not just reflect on it and it's like, oh, I learned from it. Like, no, it's like if you reflect on it and then do something about it, then you can learn, and then you can kind of like bring it to all major championships. But every major championship is different. Things can happen, but I definitely learned to kind of like just probably be a bit more in control of my, I guess, like emotions during the races, or like even nerves before races, and like all these kind of little things that are very important. So yeah, I feel like there's always a learning some sort.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said there, it's very easy to sit here and say I learned this and I learned that from this from a specific race, but it is then about going and putting that into practice and really making them changes that you need to make for the next big championships, and kind of employing them things that you did learn into your training to make yourself a better athlete once the time comes where you need to race again, whether that's in Olympics or a World Championship or a European Championship. And kind of that's what I want to lead into next, for talking about obviously your European gold in 2018. What was it about that day that kind of everything fell into place? And because I know you were mentioning there that kind of you need to maybe not get too excited and kind of get too far up the pack and hit the front, but from watching that race in 2018, I don't think it's too crazy to say that it was a comfortable enough win in terms of the last lap, especially finishing the race in 4:29. So what was it about that race in 2018 in Berlin that allowed you to get over the line in first place?
Oh yeah, like I knew what I had to do. I just had to like go for it, because I knew like I couldn't. I'm not in a situation to let like people, to let for the people to for the. I can't allow the last lap to be fast because I'm not fast enough. I can't do that.
Yeah,
I'm not like
yeah,
it's that like I can't. I'm not that type of athlete. So I need like we were the plan was very set, and that was the only way to do it. There was no other way. So yeah, that's again, like that's putting it into practice and then doing it again, and kind of like putting yourself in these situations. I guess like, what works for you as an athlete, and, obviously different races can, fold out in a bit different way, but I guess, yeah, I still kind of, I'm learning to kind of be more, a bit more, I don't know what the word, but yeah, let's call it not, no, couldn't call it selfish, but like more like, just doing what you need to do as an athlete in
yeah.
order to, to get the best result for yourself.
100%, and kind of, you know, leaning in from that, you told me that you're a big advocate for gym work, and that's something that I've begun to employ into my training after my injury is gym work. So kind of talk us through that a little bit. You know, how has that worked for you, and kind of what would a typical gym session look like for a distance runner? Because I know there's a lot of stigma around, you know, going to the gym for, you know, training like a bodybuilder compared to going to the gym to train like an athlete. So kind of why is the gym such a big part of your training, and kind of what would a typical gym session look like for you?
Oh, see, you touch on very like dangerous stuff, because when it comes to the gym, I can talk a lot because I have a lot. Like, it's not because I have a lot to say. Well,
Yeah,
it's because I really believe in it. I truly believe that gym makes us stronger. Like, it makes our body stronger, and we want to be able, we want to be strong in order to hold, to be injury free. Like, the injuries happen, they're going to happen regardless at some point, but as much as we can to prevent it from
yeah,
happening, because the stronger we are, the less chance we're going to get injured, we will tolerate training much better, and that's the two major things that we want. Because if we're injured, that means we can't train, and if we can't tolerate the training, it means that we can't improve.
yeah,
So, like, these are the most, like, two major aspects, and then we can come into, like, all the little things that gym, like, this is the general things, and then we're talking about explosivity, power, and all these little things that can help us that the last 100 meters, or the things like, we do hills and all that kind of stuff, or, like, lifting heavy, like the strength work and
yeah,
all these kind of bits and bobs. So they're all contribute, I feel like, massively to, like, become a better athlete. And, like, I believe that, like obviously depends, every person body is different, everybody has their own niggles, but, like, I think that the reason why I can tolerate high mileage is because I had a very, because, like, we did gym work prior to, like, when I started doing heavy, like, long, high mileage. And I feel the reason why I can do it is because I did the gym work, and because my body is strong enough to tolerate it, the calves and everything. And, and, like, whatever, like, and another thing is, like, first thing that people say, oh, I remember even that, like, saying, like, from the girls and from the guys in the past, oh, I'm gonna get massive. Like, I was like, oh, like, how long do you think to go? Do you think that if you're gonna go to the gym and you're gonna get massive so quickly?
yeah,
Things doesn't work that way. Like, it's not. And especially when you're a runner, like, your body will very nicely lean itself.
yeah,
Like, you're not, because it's not like you're just there, like, lifting massive weights. Like, you're running, and you're only probably going to the gym like once or twice a week. So you're definitely not gonna get your, like, you're not gonna get massive in any way, like, unless you're
yeah.
gonna stop running and you start eating and drinking protein shakes. I'm like, no, it's like, it won't. Like, it thinks, like, that it's not that easy, like how
Yeah,
you think it is to
yeah.
get big muscles and everything. And then, geez, there was another aspect that I wanted to say, but I forgot now. But no, I honestly think that, like, gym it's very, very important. And, like, you kind of like, but you need to have, like, variety in it. So, like, doing the plyo work, doing the little, like, box jumps, as, like, a lot of people, like, single leg, double leg. You're doing, like, like, leg endurance circuits, like, where you kind of do, like, four exercises in a row, and it's, like, basically body weight. You're just, like, doing um you're doing lunge switches, you encounter movement jumps, you're doing box switches, all these kind of little things, and you don't even need to feel to have the weight. Like, when I do that endurance circuit, like, Jesus, like, it's actually, like, it's such a hit your legs. And I was like, okay, that's how at the end of the race feels
Yeah,
like. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, you gym, like, we need to, we always associate it with, like, massive weights. And yes,
yeah,
like, we do lift heavy, and we kind of need in the winter time, like, I do lift heavy, and it's good to lift heavy because it's the strength developing and all that kind of stuff. But there's little things as an athlete that we do a part of lifting weights, and like you just need to, like, simple as that, you need to make your body strong to be able to handle the training. And then those little things like cleans, power cleans, or like snatches that gives you that extra power. And then we go to like pogos, or like different plyometric work that makes your leg, that, like, we're talking about, when we hitting the ground, like, it's our power hitting the ground. So we need to be able for your single leg, for each leg to be able to hit the ground, be strong enough to, to be continuously hitting the ground as a force as we do. So that's why we do, all the plyometric work and everything. And then we'll come back to core, and then, having a strong core, when we're talking about like movements when we run and all that kind of stuff. And then we, it's never ending. Never gonna
Yeah.
go to talk about it. So, like, every body part is important to be strong. We can't just, like, I remember just hearing in the past, like, oh, no, no, I'm not doing my legs in the gym. I'm only doing my upper body. I'm like, Jesus Christ, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why, like, I am a huge believer, and like I feel like that's why, because it helps me. I feel that because that's what helps me tolerate the training. I feel that's why I'm kind of like so passionate about it. I was like, guys, like, gym is so important.
Definitely. No, and that point you touched on about kind of people thinking, like, when I was in the gym, everyone knows me that I do running, and they're kind of like, oh, you're not going to get too big for running. Like, if I'm going to the gym twice a week, like, do they think it's just gonna, like, be magic and automatically I'll just switch into some big massive bodybuilder while I'm running at the same time? And I just had to be like, it just does not work that way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
It's literally just to kind of build up that base, like you mentioned, for strength, for kind of having that bit of a kick at the end of the race, or to carry you through the long mileage. It's not going to be a case where I go to the gym once and I walk out as a big massive bodybuilder. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I do. And I was like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I would like to apologize. I will disappoint you. You're not gonna, you're not gonna become a bodybuilder. Well, I know that everybody has a different body structure. Everybody, like, from the man's perspective, like, everybody is different, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do gym. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the answer. Like, just alternate, do some, do less, like, do bench press, do less of a weight for a bench press, like,
Yeah.
do some pull-ups instead, if you feel like it really gives you that much, muscle mass. But, like, I don't. And then when you think about it, like, like, then it's very difficult conversation, because then we go into like body shapes as an athlete, and what does it mean if you're slightly bigger? Is that going to make you a worse athlete? But maybe, like, in the long run, you're actually going to run quicker,
Yeah.
and, like, and be, what I mean. So
Definitely.
there's then stereotypes about, like, body types, which I don't know. Maybe we should leave it for next time.
But no, definitely, and kind of like, for you, in terms of gym, would you? I know you're mentioning plyometrics, but, like, would you kind of also do some of the basic leg workouts as well, like squatting and leg extensions and hamstring curls and calf raises and things like that, or would yours be mainly, targeted towards a more athletic approach to it, or would you kind of have more variety?
I variety. I have a, like, very good gym coach. Would actually, like, he knows me really well, and, like, I'm the kind of athlete, I love to lift heavy. Like, I love it. Like, when it comes to winter training, I love lifting. Like, trap bar is my, like, you can tell, is my favorite. Like, I set goals for myself, but he knows me. That's what
Yeah.
motivates me as an athlete. I love it. It benefits me as a runner. I feel like, I always like to relate, like, trap bar as, like, doing here, like hill session. So for me, it's kind of the same,
Yeah.
working the quads and all kind of stuff. But, like, yeah, so I feel like I have a bit of both, because, like, the variety, like, you do like straight leg bridges, you do for your hamstrings, you do back squat, you do on Tuesdays, for example, and then on Thursdays you do like trap bar. And then when it comes to outdoors, like, then, like, you do some pull, like, not outdoors, but then outdoors would be cleans, and then through the year there would be pull-ups, like then there would be like some other upper body exercise. I always have one upper body exercise or two upper body exercises in one session. And then, like all these kinds. So I feel like variety is important, to trigger different, different body parts, I guess, like, the upper body, the legs and all of that.
Definitely. And no, because on the topic of upper body, because over the course of my injury, the gym is something that I got into, specifically upper body, because my legs were injured, so I wasn't able to do legs as much. Like what would your kind of upper body workouts be like, I suppose, or kind of the exercises, upper body exercise that you would implement into your gym work? I know you were mentioning kind of like if you want to do some light bench pressing or kind of upper or pull-ups and things like that, work away and do them. So kind of for your upper body in terms of the gym, what would that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I would do bench press. I would do that. Like, I don't think that you should be afraid of the weight that much, because you know what I mean? Like, you need to do like everything in a smart way, but like you shouldn't, because at the same time you do need to work the muscles, you know what I mean? So you need to find that balance.
Yeah.
Not to do it with the 5 kg dumbbells, but but yeah, but I like, so bench press, or you could do it even on a twist ball, which kind of gives you work up for a bit of your hips as well. And then, like, yeah, I'm pull-ups. I love pull-ups. Like, pull-ups would be definitely, I feel like it's a great exercise. It's a challenging one, but when you get it, when it comes, obviously it takes time to get it, but when you get it, I feel like, you can work around it. You can do as many as you want. Then, like,
Yeah.
pull-ups, pull-ups definitely highly recommend for people who want to do upper body pull-ups. And I feel like like press-ups as well. Do you know what I mean? There's no, like, I feel like, well, Eamon, he's the one that does my program, so he's like very, but when it comes to upper body, in a way, he gives me the exercise, but because like I'm doing gym for so many years now, he's kind of like, oh, Greta, like, if there's anything that you want to do or you want to try, like, you can feel free to add it in. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, like pull-ups, press-ups, all the classics are perfect.
Definitely deadly. And yeah, no, I think that's refreshing to hear, obviously, from an athlete of your caliber, kind of for you to mention to not be afraid of the gym, because especially as people think of distance runners, they think kind of like really skinny and weak, but like it's a really important part of the training, whether that is to get stronger or merely just to prevent injuries. It's definitely something that people should begin to include into their training.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also you were telling me off air that you're this year anyway, this track season, you're looking to make the switch from kind of the 15 and the 8 over to the 3 and a bit of the 5k as well. So kind of as we've gone through, you've had some success, some real good success in the middle distances. So what is it now that's making you want to switch over to the longer distances? Is it just a bit more something new, a new challenge, or is it something that you feel like you can progress further than you did in the middle distances?
Well, I feel like, I keep my 15 definitely for the outdoor season. Definitely, that is something that I like. 15 will always going to be my distance, just because it is, in the from the para perspective in general, I love 1500 meters, but I guess like maybe for indoors 3K, you see, I haven't done many 3Ks. So I feel like on the track, and I did it one last year, and I enjoyed it, which it's not like, you shouldn't say that it's good, because I clearly wasn't pushing hard enough. But like that rhythm of like 200, I was like, I actually kind of enjoyed that part. And like, I guess because I haven't done it so many, I feel like there's somewhere that is the distances where I can improve. And then again, like, I do the training for it, so like you kind of just need to do it and see how much you can squeeze out of it, because like that's our training, like, based basically on it. So the reps that we do and all this kind of bits and bobs with Dublin Track Club. So yeah, there's something that I just would like to see what how can I improve, and what times I could run. So I'm just like curious.
Definitely. And like you mentioned, like with Dublin Track Club and the mileage that you do, and the sessions and the mileage that you do, they're all fairly high. You do high mileage weeks, and kind of the reps you do in training, in terms of sessions, they'd be quite high in terms of distance as well. So there probably wouldn't be too much in your training that you'd need to change to allow you to run fast in a 3K. It'd be kind of more of a case of, getting the experience racing it.
Oh yeah, I need to change absolutely nothing. Like
Yeah.
I can just go and like, because we training is that like we to be strong enough like over these distances. So yeah, like that I suppose that's the beauty of our training, that we can do that. We can it's a lot of like it's volume, and we do do the miles, but then we're able to like run 1500 meters, and then see what the 3K can bring, and then maybe 5K, which I need to definitely do more of. We haven't done properly, so that's another thing to explore and see where I'm at.
Definitely, and now we'll be keeping an eye out for you in them distances in your coming races. And then kind of on that note, what's the plan? What's the plan coming into the new year? Let's say we're coming into just say coming into the summer again next year, and then kind of down the line. What's the plan?
So basically, for now, the plan is just enjoy the training, and then after New Year's, we're gonna be a bit of an indoor season. So that's where like maybe that's where I'm gonna explore some 3Ks, and then and then we'll train a bit more. Like I'll head to training camp as well in Portugal, and then yeah, just train. The indoor season is just a bit of kind of like getting a bit more racing in, and then outdoors are always the key. And then we have World Championships in Paris this upcoming outdoor season, so that is something to look forward to, and
Definitely.
something exciting, and we'll see how we'll get on there.
100%. So we'll all be making sure to be cheering you on and be keeping an eye out for you in through the indoor season. But like you said as well, specifically for the World Championships in Paris. But Greta, I do really appreciate you coming on to the podcast and having a chat. It was a really informative chat, I suppose. Like I mentioned, we haven't had a Paralympian on, so that was a great aspect of your running to kind of look into. But as well as an athlete overall, it was kind of great to get your story and kind of walk through all the great success you've had. So I do really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I love the fun. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all, and hopefully we'll have you back on then after next summer, all going well after the World Championships.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Deadly. And for everyone watching and listening at home, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.